Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to help you build some real confidence in starting conversations in Mandarin, and I mean moving way beyond the basics. We're going to take this nice and slow, step by step, so you can really let each new phrase sink in. Ready? Let's get started. So, have you ever been in that situation? That awkward pause where the only word that comes to mind is hello. And you're not alone in that feeling, believe me. But today, we're going to give you a whole toolkit of phrases that will make that feeling a thing of the past. So here's what we've got lined up. First, we'll cover a few cultural basics that go beyond just saying hello. Then, we'll get into some simple greetings for when you're just, passing someone on the street. After that, we'll learn the classic Chinese icebreaker, then move on to starting some real conversations, and finally, we'll cover how to answer when someone asks about you. Okay, before we even get into the words, let's talk a little about body language. A simple smile and a nod, they go a long, long way, and they're super common. Shaking hands is also perfectly normal. Just something to keep in mind, though. Chinese culture can be a bit more conservative with physical touch, so things like hugs are pretty rare, especially with anyone older than you. Now, here's something really important to remember. Please don't worry about being perfect. As a non-native speaker, you kind of get a pass. People will genuinely appreciate the effort you're making to speak their language. Our goal here is confident communication, not perfect, flawless grammar. All right, let's get into our first set of actual phrases. This is all about those little moments when you see someone you know, but you don't really have time for a big conversation. You just want to be polite, Acknowledge them as you go about your day. And there's a really simple three-step formula for this. First, the nonverbal part we talked about, just a nice simple smile and a nod. Second, you want to use the right title for the person. And third, a really interesting technique is to just make a simple observation. Let's break down those last two steps. Okay, so for step 2, titles are a big deal. Let's say you're walking into a small shop or a local restaurant. You can greet the owner by just saying Lao Ban. Let's say that slowly. Lao Ban. One more time at a normal pace. Lao Ban. It's really simple and it's a respectful way to get their attention. Now, what if you see someone who's, say, about your parents' age? Well, you can use these titles. For a man, you'd say shu shu. Let's try that one. Shu, shu. And for a woman, you'd say ai, a-yi. These are really common terms of respect, and they create a very friendly, warm feeling. Okay, and here's a fantastic little pro tip for you. If you see a woman and you're not quite sure if she's IE age or maybe a little bit younger, it's always a really thoughtful compliment to call her Jie. Let's pronounce that. Jie. It just means older sister, and trust me, she will definitely appreciate the kind gesture. Now for step 3, the observation. This is such a common and natural way to greet people in Chinese. You literally just say what you see the person doing. For instance, if you see your neighbor coming home, you can just say, 你回来了? Let's say that one together. 你回来了. Now, I know this might feel a little strange to an English speaker, but it's really just another way of saying hello. So if you see someone leaving their apartment, you can say, 你走啊. Let's try it. 你走啊. Or maybe a colleague is packing up their desk at the end of the day. You can say, 你下班了, which is 你下班了. You're just narrating what you see. It's a completely normal way to greet someone. Okay, let's move on to what is maybe the most essential greeting in the entire Chinese language. And it's so much more than just a question. It's a genuine way of showing that you care about someone's well-being, kind of like how we ask, how are you in English? And that phrase is, 你吃饭了吗? Let's break it down nice and slow. 你吃饭了吗? Now a bit faster, more naturally. 你吃饭了吗? If you meet anyone around breakfast, lunch, or dinner time, you are almost guaranteed to be asked this question. So how do you answer? Well, it's actually super simple. If you have eaten, you can just say 吃了. Let's try it. 吃了. Another really common way to say yes is 吃过了. That's 吃过了. And if you haven't eaten yet, you just say 还没. 还没. It's simple, it's direct, and it's perfectly natural. Okay, so we've got the passing greetings down, but what if you actually want to stop and have a real conversation? Let's look at a few great phrases for starting those longer, more meaningful chats. Let's start with meeting someone new. In a more formal setting, a great phrase is 很高兴见到你. Let's say that slowly. 很高兴见到你. For someone really important, like a company president, you could use the very formal 幸会. Now, on the casual side, for a friend you haven't seen in forever, you'd say 好久不见. 好久不见. And to ask how they are, a simple 最近怎么样 works perfectly. 最近怎么样? Now, here's a phrase I love. If you want to sound a little warmer and show you're really interested, this one is fantastic. 最近在忙什么呢? Let's break that one down. 最近在忙什么呢? It literally means, what have you been busy with lately? And it just shows you really care about what's actually going on in their life. We are almost there. You now know how to kick off all kinds of conversations. But what happens when they ask you one of these questions back? Let's get you ready with 3 simple, everyday responses you can use. You've got 3 really great, common replies you can use. For a positive response, you can say, 挺好的. Let's try it. 挺好的. For a more neutral, I'm all right kind of answer, you can use 还行. And my personal favorite, 老样子, which basically means same old, 老样子. And just like that, you've got it. From a simple nod to asking if someone's eaten, all the way to catching up with an old friend, you are now prepared. The crucial thing is, you have the tools. Now you just have to get out there and actually use them. So, you've confidently started the conversation, you've had a great chat, but, well, that leads us to our next big question, doesn't it? What is the most natural way to wrap things up and say goodbye? We'll just leave you with that to think about for now.